So from a young age, science has always been a thing for me. It's something I always liked. It always satisfies my curiosity. Because I'm the kind of person that always wants to know more, try new things, just find new experiences. And so before I start my talk, I'd like you guys, the audience, to close your eyes for a while. Okay? And imagine, what if a paper cut could kill you? I mean, a paper cut is small. Well, before antibiotics, this was a real possibility. The first antibiotic, penicillin, was discovered by this guy, Dr. Alexander Fleming. On September 1928, in his lab, he realized that a petri dish containing Staphylococcus, which is a bacteria, it was contaminated with a penicillium mold, and he saw that around the mold, the bacteria didn't grow. So he concluded that the mold, it released a substance that prevents the growth of bacteria, and it also kills the bacteria. Although, despite his findings, nobody really took interest in it. It wasn't until years later that penicillin was finally used medicinally. So, fast forward 1940, I want to tell you the story of Albert Alexander. Albert Alexander, he's a police officer in Oxford, England. And in December 1940, he went out to his garden, and a rose thorn scratched his mouth. By the end of the month, the scratch, it was badly infected. He had abscesses all over his face, and his eye was so infected that one of them had to be taken out. Luckily, during this time, a small team of scientists at Oxford University, they were working on the medicinal use of penicillin. And they needed a candidate, a human candidate, to try penicillin, because they didn't know if it would work or if the penicillin would even kill the person. So Albert, he fit this category. Why not try penicillin on someone who's going to die anyways? And on 12 February 1941, Albert Alexander, he received the first injection of penicillin. And within only 24 hours, his fever went down, his appetite came back, and his infection started to heal. So it's kind of a miracle drug, but it wasn't until a few years later, not long after this, penicillin started to become mass-produced. And when it was mass-produced, it was advertised as a miracle drug, something that could cure infections, something amazing. It was supplied to troops, US troops fighting during World War II. And the miracles, it could almost be seen as it's amazing, something new. But there's the saying that all good things must come to an end. And with antibiotics, this ending was antimicrobial resistance. So, antimicrobial resistance is basically when the bacteria, they start resisting the antibiotics, and they can be hard to cure, or the antibiotics become ineffective against them. It's kind of like we're playing a game of cat and mouse, you know, Tom and Jerry, but specifically, we're the humans, we're the mouse, and the bacteria is always running after us. So for example, we would find a new antibiotic, you know, we would get one step ahead, but then the bacteria, it would evolve and adapt and get closer to us, and it would also go on and on and on like this. You can see that through the discovery of antibiotics, ever since penicillin, there was a lot of discoveries, but then we see towards the end, there was less and less new antibiotics being discovered, and almost none in the last 10 to 20 years. And I would like you now to present to you this question. Are we entering a post-antibiotic world? 700,000. This is a number. I'll give you guys 5 seconds to guess what this number is for. Okay, 700,000 is the estimated amount of people who die every year because of antimicrobial resistance. An example is the antibiotic resistance of E. coli in the United States. We can see that from 1999, it's just been increasing and increasing and increasing, and we can only expect it to increase more in the future. Another example is the resistance of Pseudomonas aeruginosa. We can see in some countries this bacteria is already very hard to cure. For example, in India, almost 60% of the bacteria already resist antibiotics. So from this, we can already see that it is a problem right now. Here's another number, 10 million. By 2050, it is estimated that if we do nothing about this, 10 million people will die every year because of antimicrobial resistance. So now you might ask, how did we get here? What did we do? Well, a lot actually. So one of the things that we did wrong was we didn't control antibiotics enough. In a lot of parts of the world, antibiotics are sold without prescription or without the supervision of any medical professional. See, in some of these areas, such as China, India, and Indonesia, they have one of the world's largest populations. And if they're using this antibiotics without the supervision of a doctor, they're just doing more harm than good. They're just creating more and more resistant bacteria. Second thing we did was the overprescription of antibiotics. Are there any doctors here? Because if there are, I'm looking at you. The doctors, they need to prescribe less antibiotics, not too much. You need to chill, hit the brakes. Okay, just not too much. In the US alone, 1/3 of antibiotic prescriptions are unnecessary. That's 47 million. And that's a lot. This overprescription, it causes more bacteria that become resistant, even though it's unnecessary to use antibiotics to treat infections all the time. And the last one is education for patients. Say, for example, I'm sick, I go to the doctor, and the doctor prescribed me an antibiotic for, say, 5 days. I take the antibiotic, and say the next day or next 2 days, I feel better, and I didn't finish the last 3 days of my prescription. What this does is it leaves bacteria that are resistant, even though I feel, okay, I feel good, I'm healthy now, but there are some bacteria left, and this bacteria, they start resisting the drugs. It's kind of like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So what doesn't kill the bacteria, well, makes it stronger. And before I end my talk, I'd like you guys to think of antibiotics as this weapon that we have against bacteria. It's something that we need to take care of. Say, for example, a sword. If you don't use it properly, it's not going to be effective. You're just doing more harm than you are doing good. Same thing with antibiotics. You need to use it properly for it to be effective. And the second thing is, if you use a sword again and again and again, hitting the same thing over and over and over again, you're just going to make it dull. And it's also the same case with antibiotics. If you keep on using it too much, you're abusing it, it'll effectively become nothing. And last thing is, sometimes people, they don't realize the value of some things until we don't have them anymore, until we lose them. Thank you.